Right, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Life After Graduation, which accountancy qualification is right for you. My name's Lauren Kelly, and I'm the head of marketing at Gerald Edelman. We're an accountancy and business advisory firm, and I'm going to be your chair today. So welcome. And today we're joined by a fantastic panel of awarding bodies, as well as accountancy firms such as ourselves, such as Moore and Smalley. And we're all here today to give you an insight into the world of accountancy, the different qualifications available, just to hopefully give you some great takeaways. So if you have any questions throughout the session, please just write them in the chat box and I'll try and get through as many as possible at the end. So the format today is we have Simon Laurie, our keynote, who's going to initially speak to you all, and then I will introduce all of our panelists, and then we'll kick off with the Q&As. So firstly, I'll hand over to Simon Laurie, who is also a manager at Gerald Edelman. Over to you, Simon.
Thanks, Lauren. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. As the keynote speaker, I'm here today to give you my story about how and why I'm in the position I am today. So as Lauren just mentioned, I'm currently manager within the business services department at Gerald Edelman. I've only been with the company 3 months. However, my journey started back in 2005 when I studied accounting and marketing at university. From a very young age, I always wanted to move into something within finance. And always enjoyed working with numbers rather than words, and therefore this felt like the natural next stage in my life, having previously done work experience as a 15-year-old at an accountancy firm. I guess my earliest memory at university from an accounting perspective was one Wednesday morning where we had a test that was worth 35% of my year's unit, which was all on something called T accounts. I appreciate some of you may not have seen these yet, but essentially this is just a method that, or way, if you like, to ensuring that everything is balanced when you're looking at your accounts. Anyway, all through the seminar and lessons, I could never get them to balance. But in this 1 hour exam, with minutes to go, I finished and everything balanced. I couldn't quite believe it, to be honest. But I got there, which was amazing. The first time it happened was during that actual exam. So at that particular point in time, I got such a buzz and it felt like such a great sense of achievement. I scored 92% on that piece of work, which is why I like numbers. There's always a correct answer. Whereas I feel like with words, it's someone's opinion. Whereas numbers, you get to an answer and it's invariably the right answer. And no one can kind of take that away from you. So like I say, I knew I'd score well on the test because my T accounts are balanced. And that was always kind of like getting most of the way there. And obviously all the way through my practices and so on, I never got there. I never got it right. But so to get to this point was fantastic. So when university ended, I remember speaking to my great uncle, who at the time was the director of Currys, and he'd always worked in finance. My uncle recommended that I should continue my studies and complete my chartered accountancy exams, as this would open numerous doors and options, either within a practice route or within an industry. So in early 2009, I secured a role with the local accountancy practice as a trainee, earning a whopping £11,000 per year. But the key thing was that I was now an ACCA trainee, with all the fees being paid for by the company. So my road to being a chartered accountant had now started. At the time, the firm I joined, there was only 9 of us, 9 members of staff. When I left there 14 years later, there was over 30 of us. And I was one of 2 senior managers working directly with the managing director. The ACCA consisted of 14 3-hour examinations, which at the time there was only 2 sittings each year. I understand now there are 4 every 3 months. So you can do them every, I think it's the calendar quarters, March, June, September, December. However, my degree entitled me to 3 exemptions, F1, F2 and F3, which was considered the first level or the applied knowledge section. Fantastic, I thought. I've completed 3 exams at 14 without having to put pen to paper. So I then proceeded to work 5 days a week, working 9 to 5, as well as studying the next level of exams, F4 through to F9. As part of the package, I was granted leave from work to attend tuition courses and revision courses. It was considered normal at the time that each student would study 2 exams every 6 months, and therefore had a 3-day tuition course and 3 days revision course for each unit during that 6 months period. The rest of the time was completely up to me, and it was my own self-study to do evenings, weekends, whatever it was. It was up to me. So the training partner at the time was a company called BPP. And as part of each course, we would set course exams, which were essentially practice papers where old questions were used from previous real life exams. Certainly after the initial tuition courses, these exams were difficult, and even using the course material was essential to get the answers. But even then, the papers were hard. You were learning so much new material constantly, and to try and understand it all after just 3 days of courses, I found really, really tough. The key to success I found was, and the way that I studied, I felt like I had to put the work in to achieve results I needed. The exams were a huge step up from university papers. During my early days in my role, I was shocked at how different real life accounting was compared to what you were taught. The methods you were taught are essentially the same, but it took time for it to sink in and learn the real ways of accounting. I remember going home every day for the first 2 weeks with a massive, great big headache. I think a lot of that is purely because when you're doing exams or papers and so on, it all presents itself in a neat way. Whereas in the real world, people bring it to you, but certainly back then in bags of receipts, or there was stuff that didn't work, or things didn't balance and you were missing information. It just threw added complexity to it. So once you kind of decipher through all that, the methods are still there. They're just in the background. You just got to kind of work your way of getting there. But like I say, some people picks up straight away, others takes a little bit longer, and it's just once you get it, it clicks and you're there. So I continued to work through the ranks at work. With my exams, I was achieving first-time passes through the middle level, otherwise known as the applied skills level. And one piece of advice I was given during my studies was, when studying 2 exams at a time, was to choose one number-based exam and one written-based exam. As focusing on 2 word-based exams together was a lot to manage. And trust me, that was a sound piece of advice, because when studying and learning, it was lovely to move to some numbers after a long day of studying theory. So, for example, the first 2 exams I sat was F4, corporate and business law, and F6, taxation. It gave me a nice mix between just studying words, and theory, to actually doing some calculations. So it was quite a nice mix. So I always recommend doing that. In 2011, so I then completed all my middle level with first-time passes, and now moved on to the final level, the strategic professional examinations, which consist of 2 mandatory units and 4 optional units, of which you need to complete 2, meaning 4 units in total for the final level. So as I had 3 exemptions at the start, I was left with 11 units to complete in total. And as I continued to pass 2 every 6 months, I was left with 1 final paper to negotiate for becoming a fully fledged chartered accountant. Can you all guess what happened next? Yeah, I failed it. So all the way through, pass, just had to study for 1 in that 6-month period and failed. So my approach was exactly the same, but for whatever reason, I wasn't able to get over the line for the first time of asking. As part of the ACCA, you have to score 50 on each exam to pass. I think for the ICAEW, it's 55. I managed to score 49, which means I scored lower than this probably, but the market did everything in their power to get me to that magic number. What we were told a lot of the time during our courses was that, if you ever score under 50 for whatever reason, they're doing everything in their power to get you up, to mark you up as high as you possibly can. And if you end up 49, it probably means you got slightly lower than that. So for whatever reason, it wasn't meant to be. And what that did then mean is, as I mentioned earlier, I had to wait another 6 months before I could qualify, which was painful. Not to mention the pay rise that was going to go with it as well. So that also had to put on the back burner. 6 months later, I retook that exam and scored 64, which I was now qualified. So, Lauren, I think I've got my exam history on screen here. If that's on screen. So that, which summarizes my story from start to finish. You can kind of see all the different exams that I went through with the scores on the right-hand side. And right at the very bottom, you can see there's that one horrible little fail that's just going to stick with me forever, I suppose. But it's a nice way of, it's something to talk about. I'd say the only other one that sticks out from there, I will mention, is F9. F9 was always the one that I was told was tough, really tough. And you see there, I scored 50 on F9, and 50 in a way was kind of like the best score you could get, because it was like you got through it and it was just by the skin of your teeth, but you haven't got to do it again, and I've got a cracking memory from that. Our results used to come through on a text message or an email at like 6 o'clock in the morning. For whatever reason that day, it hadn't come. And I was waiting. And I remember at the time I was car sharing with someone who I worked with. and he'd picked me up, and we were driving down the motorway, and then all of a sudden we got this message come through, and I got 50, and I just remember the car kind of shaking with our kind of excitement as we were jumping up and down in the car, celebrating because we both passed our exam results at the same kind of time. So again, fond little memories, but these are sort of stuff that kind of lives with you for a long time. But overall, what Lauren's got on the screen there, it's really nice to look back on. It's a reminder of how far I've come over the years and how proud I am of those studies. I was never incredibly academic at school. My GCSEs consisted of 2 Bs, 4 Cs, 4 Ds, and 2 Es. So studying never came naturally to me, and I was too interested in playing sports than having my head in the books at that time. So working within practice for 15 years, I've learned a hell of a lot, and the challenging things about this industry is that you'll never know everything. There's so much to learn, and there are so many different avenues you can take, and therefore people have different specialisms within the industry, and you need to lean on these people from time to time because you just will not know it all. One of the best pieces of advice I got from my old managing director was that you must be patient in this industry, and experience is key. You'll come across many different people at different stages of their business life cycle who have all had different experiences to date. You'll build your experience from real life scenarios which will enhance your ability as an advisor. Your exams are essential, don't get me wrong, but life experience cannot be rushed. The moral of that story was that there is no need to rush your exams. There's no need to rush the development. Work hard, be driven, and learn from people around you, as one day you'll be in my shoes telling your story. My role has developed from being an accounts trainee, semi-senior, senior, right through management into a senior role where you become the focal point of client discussions and become their trusted advisor, providing real-life tax-saving advice, and more importantly, proactive forward-thinking advice. As I developed within the industry, my role moved away from the day-to-day compliance and focused more on the bigger picture and how I could help clients to maximize their personal and business goals. This led me to being involved in such areas like remuneration planning or pre-earned tax planning or forecasting. So remuneration planning kind of involves looking at personal income of the directors, the shareholders, planning when to take dividends, how much to declare, factoring in all aspects such as rental income, household incomes between husband and wife, what children they have, what plans that individual has for the future. This enables us to structure remuneration accordingly and provide clients with advance warning of tax liabilities, sometimes 2-3 years in advance. Obviously, legislation changes, but at the time, a lot of clients want a plan. They want to look forward. They want to see what they're going to do and what the impact of taking, say, a big dividend would impact their tax liabilities are. So having that kind of forward projection is so important. Pre-year and planning reviews are kind of similar, but this is kind of looking at it from a corporate entity, where, you kind of take the management information after sort of 9 or 10 months and then hold a meeting with the client. You tend to then project forward those figures to the year end and estimate what the current tax liability will be at that stage. We then discuss with the client what options they have and what actions they can take before the year end to minimize that liability. So that might be something like making a pension contribution from the company or looking at buying more equipment in before the end of the year, but just giving clients a flavor of what is coming. Again, tax liabilities for a company are due 9 months after the year end. So if you're talking to a client 9 or 10 months into their year, you're giving a client 12-month warning of what their liability is like to be, as opposed to perhaps giving them their year-end accounts, which are historical data, and kind of saying, you've got 2 weeks to pay this. Clients want to have that service. They want to have advanced warning of things, and that's kind of where you differentiate yourself from people in the industry. So tax planning, it often needs to be put into action before the reporting date. For example, payments need to be made before certain dates in order for the tax plan to be beneficial. So as a manager, you're responsible for a large portfolio of clients. And although you review your work, you need to rely on every member of your team at all levels to carry out their duties correctly. And therefore, everyone has an important role to play in delivering that high quality services that clients desire. This includes first year juniors right up to partners. So every single step of the way, you play such an important role in that cog. It might be from just sorting bank statements into order, passing on to someone else who then takes the next step, or processing the bookkeeping, doing the VAT return, doing a set of accounts as you progress on. Every single stage of that is important to bring that whole package to a client. So the next step for me, I guess the next step for me is just to continue working hard. Like I say, this thing doesn't change, the legislation changes all the time, and developing my skills in new areas, dealing with a lot more investment-based companies rather than owner-managed businesses, and broadening my knowledge within the industry. So like I said, the accounting industry is constantly moving. and legislation changes all the time. Certainly through the pandemic, changes happened daily. You know, you were sitting down at 4:30 to watch the briefing every day because something new was coming out. And, you know, the advice you gave a client 24 hours ago was now outdated. You have to do something else. So it was a very challenging time. But what I would say, you'll never get bored in this industry. It changes, it evolves, different scenarios and challenges present themselves on a daily basis. And that's probably why I'm still an accountant today. So I guess what I would say is just remember, you know, people will always need accountants. That's someone always said that to me. Advice and expert knowledge cannot be carried out by a computer. And so many clients still value that face-to-face relationship. So that's me. Thank you for listening. Hopefully that's provided you a bit of an insight into post-university life and will help you to pick the right journey for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. I think that's really useful and provides such a great insight into, you've been in many of these, been in this position before as like all these students. So it's really useful to see how you found the journey and where you are today, and that you still enjoy it, that you're still so thank you, Simon. Now I'm going to introduce our panelists. So I'm delighted that we've got panelists today from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Scotland, the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, CPA Australia, CIMA, and Moore and Smalley. So it is a real great opportunity, as I keep saying, to hear from everyone in one place. I'm going to introduce all the panelists one by one now to say a bit more about themselves and their organisations. So I'm going to just go round as I see you all on the screen. So India, are you happy to kick off?
Yes, of course, no problem. Hi everyone. My name's India Pipes, so I'm a business development manager at CPA Australia. Some of you may not be too familiar maybe with CPA Australia, but we are a professional accounting body. We actually do have over 170,000 members all across the world. So a lot of our members are, of course, based in Australia, but our next largest office is Hong Kong. We have 20 offices globally. So Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam. I'm based in the London office, so we look after our members in Europe. Our newest office is actually in Abu Dhabi, so they look after all our UAE members. So we are a globally recognised designation. A sort of a little bit perhaps about our programme. So we firstly do have a foundation programme at CPA Australia. So if you have done an accredited course with us, you are exempt from the foundation programme. If you haven't done an accredited course, you may still be exempt, but the foundation programme is really there for people who may not have studied accounting and finance, and it gives them that level of knowledge to start the CPA programme. So once you've been exempt from the foundation subjects or completed them, you then start our CPA programme, where we have 6 subjects altogether, and then a 3-year practical experience requirement as well. So yeah, there's multiple entry points into the CPA programme, but hopefully that just gives you a very general overview about CPA Australia. And for those of you that don't know us, a bit more information about us as well.
Thank you, India. And like I say, if anyone does have any questions, please do start typing away and we'll go through them at the end if you have any specific questions for anyone. So Harvey, are you able to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Harvey. I'm an early careers executive at ICAEW. So a little bit about ourselves. We offer the ACA qualification, so you become a fully qualified chartered accountant as well, like pretty much everyone here. We have offices all over the world, similarly to CPA. We've got just over 160,000 members and around 34,000 students currently studying towards the qualification. We work with over 6,000 employers worldwide, within practice and industry. So there's lots of opportunity for you to go work somewhere where you actually have a passion for and somewhere where you're actually going to hopefully enjoy going to work. The qualification itself is built up of 4 elements, which is professional development, 450 days of your work experience, ethics and professional skepticism and development, and then 15 exams, depending on what you're studying, you might be eligible for exemptions for those exams. And there are also different routes in depending on kind of what you want to do out of your career and where you want to focus. So on our website, there's like a whole section of kind of find my route where you can answer loads of questions and it'll advise you of where to go. But that's pretty much us in a very quick overview.
Thank you, Harvey. Diane, are you happy?
Thank you. So my name is Diane Dixon. I work for CIMA, who are the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. I know I've got a London backdrop behind me, but I'm not actually in London. I'm based up near St Andrews in Fife. And actually, we have got sunshine today, so it's lovely. It's a bit nicer than all the rain we've been having. So I suppose the clues in our title with the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. Simon's actually been involved in management accounting. I could hear that from his story as well. And the management accountant, I work with universities, so I do quite a lot of university events, particularly this time of year. The best way that I can describe management accounting is all about, looking forward. It's thinking about the story behind the numbers, how you can then help grow your business. Just to give you an example, we've got a lady called Serena who works at Sky, the television and media provider, and she's a financial controller. She did all her CIMA exams through Sky. They sponsored her through the finance graduate program. She's been involved in quite a lot of large projects where she's been managing budgets, dealing with senior members of the leadership team, looking at technology, so doing forecasting as well. And one of the biggest projects she's been involved in recently was bringing all the streaming services onto Sky. So you might remember before the pandemic, they kind of went into a collaboration with Netflix. And then since then, it's just kind of grown with all the different streaming services you can get. And that's just the type of role a management accountant would get involved in. They tend to work more in industry rather than in practice, but it's still really important that they understand the financial accounting and how the numbers all work so that they can interpret that information and make those decisions about the business.
Thank you, Diane. That's really useful. Judith, are you able to kick off next? Oh, sorry, we can't hear you. Oh, sorry, Judith. That's okay. Jessica, do you want to go next? Judith, I'll come back to you.
Yes. Can you hear me all right? Yeah, okay, brilliant. Nice to meet you all. Thank you very much for inviting Moore & Smalley onto the call today. So I'm the talent acquisition lead at MHA Moore & Smalley. So I look after all the recruitment of the firm, everything from students and placement students, graduates, A-level leavers, all the way up to our experienced hires and more senior hires as well. So we're an accountancy practice. We have got offices across the Northwest. So we do have an office in Lancaster. I'm in the Preston office today, Manchester, Liverpool. We kind of cover the whole Northwest. I won't list them all. So we take on students, I say A-level leavers who study for their AATs, graduates. We offer a couple of different options depending on what team that you join in with us. And we also take on placement students as well. We offer a number of different services to our clients. So we've got an audit team, accounts, tax, a financial planning team, and we do take students on for them. We've got a payroll team who do our clients' payroll. So that's a service that we offer, so they don't do our payroll. And we also have a corporate finance team as well. So we offer a number of different services across the Northwest. We are also affiliated with MHA. So Moore & Smalley are Northwest based. MHA is a national network that we are a part of. So we can offer client services on that national level. We work really closely with our colleagues in MHA who tend to be more based down south. And because we are part of MHA, we're also part of Baker Tilly International too. So we do have that international, global reach, which is fantastic for anyone joining us. We can offer secondments abroad. We also get exposure into larger work, more international work we can get stuck into, so a real variety. So yeah, we're looking forward to answering any questions today.
Thank you, Jessica. And Judith, have you sorted? No.
I think so.
Yes, yes, yes. We can hear
Yay!
you.
Yeah, that's Zoom. That was Zoom. Not my technical expertise letting me down. Thanks for your patience. So I'm Judith Wilson from ICAS, Institute of Chartered Accountants of Scotland. And although our roots are Scottish, ICAS isn't just an institute for Scottish chartered accountants. We were the first ever professional accountancy body established in 1854. And since then, we've grown into a global community. And our members work in more than 100 countries, and we train CAs all across the UK. We're the only UK institute to create our own syllabus, teaching material and exams for all our students. And this gives us total quality control and consistency. And no other institute or training body in the UK can use the prestigious CA designation. So whether you're considering your options for developing your skills with a professional qualification, you really need to think about your next step and who will employ you once you qualify with that qualification. An ICAS CA qualification is a complete business one that is highly respected internationally, and that will give you the competitive edge. And organisations who hire CAs know that they're getting an employee with a broad range of business skills and expertise. So you could work in practice, financial services, tax, audit, government, charity, public sector, or any form of industry. And once qualified, it enables you to take advantage of broader career opportunities, both at work, home and overseas. So it's important to note that CAs are valued by successful companies themselves, and 83% of FTSE 100 companies employ CAs, and they're well represented in the boardroom, with our members holding senior positions across the board, not simply in the finance role. So there is a breadth and depth in those numbers. It generally takes 3 years to qualify, and the training involves a combination of work experience and exams. First of all, you have to enter into a paid graduate training contract with an ICAS authorised employer. You achieve the minimum of 450 days work experience with them, and then you study and pass the 3 stages of examinations with us. Where you train depends on where your employer is based, as it's your employer who pays for you to be trained and pays your salary while you're doing the training. And learning and exams are delivered all across the UK through a flexible blend of online and face-to-face support and resources. So you can train anywhere in the UK. And if you've got an accounting and finance degree from Lancaster or some of the other universities here, you could well be exempt from completing the first stage of the CA qualification. But do bear in mind, it's your employer that makes the decision on whether or not you can take up exemptions. So the first step you need to do is to apply for a training agreement, and we have those on our website, and you can find out more on icas.com. Thanks.
Thank you, Judith. And last but not least, Zion, hand over to you.
Right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. House, okay. So I'm Zion. I'm an audit intermediate at Moore & Smalley. I work alongside Jess. A little bit about myself really is I'm only a recent graduate, so I completed my master's degree at Lancaster University Management School in October of 2022. So I've been at Moore & Smalley for just over a year now, and I went through the recruitment process that many people will be going through on this call in the next couple of months or years to come. I'm an ACA. I'm doing the ACA qualification with the ICAEW. I'm partway through my exams and the work experience I need for that. So the goal for the future is to carry on progressing through that qualification and get the practical work hours I need to eventually qualify.
Thank you. So now it's over to the Q&A. So does any of our attendees have any questions? Please send them now. One question I was going to ask is how much, it might be more for Jessica, but the others as well, how much choice do students have at organisations to pick which qualification and which route they go down?
For us, what we do is we hold assessment centres to understand whether students are a right fit for MHA more and Smalley. And then at that point, we ask you what your preference would be in terms of would you like audit, would you like accounts, and would you like tax? Now, we do have students studying ACCA. We have Zian doing ACA. We've also got tax students that do CTA, or some of them do a joint ACA onto CTA. So it's more led by what route you want to go down. And I would probably say my advice would be there's a few things to consider if you're a student looking to get into accountancy. So first things first, have you considered whether you want industry or practice? Because it can be very different. Within practice, do you know, and you might not have a preference, which is fine too. Do you know if you want to go down a particular route? So i.e. audit, accounts, tax. Some companies offer schemes where you can get a bit of experience in them all and pick. For example, we do insight days where you can meet people from different areas of the business. And then I guess you want to have a look at the types of learning that are offered. So I think a few of the other panelists have mentioned some people do accept exemptions, some people don't. So that's something that you want to consider. We do accept exemptions based on the course that you're doing. It's not a good thing or a bad thing if practices or in industry do accept exemptions. I can see both sides. So sometimes it's fantastic, it's less exams to do. On the other side of things, I've heard that people have appreciated doing those exams again to refresh their memory. So that's something to consider, exemptions. I'd also consider the style of training that's offered. So it's when you're studying for a qualification and working full time, it's a huge thing to take on, and you have to find your learning style. So some people in our business, for example, prefer to do online sessions, so just to sit in their preferred space, get the head down and do online training sessions. Other people request to do face-to-face learning and would much rather be in that classroom-based environment. So I think that's another thing to consider. How best do you work? How best do you learn? And what are the employers offering? So we do have we have an early careers lead, Nicola, that works with us. She works closely with our students, books in revision sessions, checks that that the qualification that they're doing is suitable to them and that the learning style is appropriate for them as well. So that's another thing to consider. So we do have a preference. A lot of our staff are doing ACA. Some of our staff are doing ACCA. I guess with my other hat on, with my experienced hires hat, when I'm looking at CVs of qualified professionals, at no point does it cross my mind that, oh, someone's done ACCA or someone's done ACA. To me, you're a qualified professional, and whichever route you've taken is a huge accomplishment and can add a huge experience to our business. So I think don't get too hung up on what qualification you're doing, what provider you're using. Focus on what works best for yourself, focus on how you're going to get through that qualification that best fits yourself, and how the company is going to support you to get through that. Because honestly, at no point in my recruitment career has any hiring manager come to me and said, they're good, but they've done this qualification or they've used this provider. Once you're qualified, it's held in very high regard. So I would say my advice would be to consider all the points, look into the business. Are they a good fit for yourself? Do their values align with yours? Are they going to support you through that qualification? Because all those things are incredibly important to get you qualified. And I know the original question was, how much do students have an input? We do have a preferred, and I think a lot of practices do have a preferred, and in industry as well. However, we are flexible. We do have people studying different routes, and sometimes you only can realise that when you're partway through. So we do acknowledge those as well.
Thank you. I think that's really useful because it can seem so overwhelming with the different bodies and wanting to make that right choice. But
yeah, there's a lot of
ultimately,
options.
yeah, there is no wrong choice really. It's what suits you. There is a question that's come in, and I wonder if we can help Ali now. So he's a finance master student and isn't sure about each field of financial job, so accounting, tax, audit, and the advantages and disadvantages of each. So when they're applying for these positions and then looking for the qualification they're going to do alongside it, is there a better fit? Can you provide more insight into that for any of the qualifications? So for example, India, is there a certain role that students have when they study your qualification?
For us, there isn't a particular certain role. Generally, when people are doing the CPA program, it helps them to go on to senior finance roles in the future. So our subjects do cover a lot. So, for example, the compulsory subjects in the CPA programs, we have ethics and governance, strategic management accounting, financial reporting, global strategy and leadership. And then when you're going on to the electives, that's when you can pick, do I want to pick taxation? Do I want to do an audit subject? Do I want to do digital finance? So I guess whilst you're doing the CPA program, you are studying different subjects, and perhaps there you're sort of finding your foot with, what is it that I enjoy? What is it I enjoy studying? Is this something that I then want to go on to in my career?
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything to add or can provide any insight into the different fields?
I'll just add quickly that with ourselves, a majority of the roles that we see available are kind of audit and tax to begin with for students when they're kind of leaving university. But during the time that students are studying for the qualification, which on about 80% of people do it within 4 years, we see people that do move or get promoted or move teams or even move company at times. So it's a difficult one to make a decision on when you're at university, when you have no experience. You'll listen to our advice. We'll obviously tell you hopefully the positives, but until you're physically in it and experiencing it, only you can make that decision whether it's right for you. And we give you that option, and the employers give you, that support to be able to make a decision for your career. Doesn't restart you on the qualification or anything. You can continue wherever you're at. So I would say try and pick something that sounds like you would enjoy it and sounds like a company that you would enjoy. Hopefully it will be, and you could join a company that sounds amazing and then you get into it and it's the opposite, and vice versa. So just be open-minded into whatever it is that you go into, and you have that flexibility there.
Yeah, I think that flexibility is important, because I know even for us, we take on a lot of graduates in our audit teams, but obviously then throughout their career and once they become qualified, they might move into our corporate finance, our tax, our business services. Now, it doesn't mean that whatever you pick now means that you'll stay in that. There's a lot of different options. Does anyone else have anything to add?
Yeah,
I was going to say, just to add to what Harvey said there, I think certainly from my perspective, it was foot in the door, getting your foot in the door somewhere where you'll get your base knowledge of audit, accounts, tax, whatever it might be that gives you interest. That will then give you the knowledge of what you feel like you need to know now, because you'll get a flavour of each one of those and you go, do you know what, I'm going to go down that path. And as I said, there's so many different avenues. The fact there's so many different panelists on here with different options, you're not expected to know what's the right one to go with now. You're doing your university studies and so on, and that's your focus at the minute. But certainly I know on the future, but are you meant to know which accountancy qualification you should be doing now? I wouldn't say so, no, necessarily. I think go and find the right role that fits you, that would then support you in the right way. And then from there, you'll learn and you'll gain that experience and knowledge of where you want to go next.
Thank you. Zion, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I suppose from a student perspective as well, if you're at university, most universities have like a career service that you can go to and speak one-to-one with somebody, book an appointment. And that's actually how I found my role at Moore and Smalley. I went and spoke to the careers team early on in the year when I was doing my master's. I was doing quantitative finance at uni, so I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to go into after I'd graduated, but it only took a couple of 45-minute appointments and we were getting options in the audit world, in the accountancy world, as well as financial management and hedge funds, everything like that. So going in and speaking to somebody one-to-one and talking about what you want from your career. So if you don't want to be working too many hours and you don't want to be doing loads of overtime and things like that, these people have got experience and they've got contacts at firms from across the country that know how to tailor a role to what you want from it.
Thank you. Has anyone else got anything else to add on that one?
Yeah, I think what everybody else has said is great, and it's really, really relevant. I think the other thing to think about, because the qualification will give you that rotation and firms will give you that, is the size of firm you want to work with, because that's something that can make quite a difference to your experience. And you know, there's small, medium, large firms, and they're quite different environments with different values, and I think you can do quite a lot of research yourself on you know, their social media, how they respond to things, and whether what they're interested in and posting about is what you're interested in. And if you're in an environment like that and you want, you know, you're motivated by what they're motivated by, then you'll probably thrive and make the most of any opportunity you have.
Thank you. That's a very good point. We do offer so many different experiences. Anyone else? And also, does anyone else have any questions? Please do put them in the chat now.
I think my advice on that would be, yeah, company's really important. Some people are really lucky that they're doing an accountancy and finance degree, they like a particular subject, it's their favourite, and so that's the way that they're going. We also take on students that have never done accountancy, so that is a learning curve for them. And I have a live example of this year, someone joining us in August in a particular team. For a couple of months, we realised it wasn't right for them, so we were able to move them across. They didn't spend years and years working in a position that wasn't for them. It didn't affect the qualification. We were able to move it across. It was still relevant to the role anyway. So yeah, I can understand why it's really daunting to have loads of options, but completely mirroring what Simon said, get your foot in the door, make sure the company's right for you and they'll look after you.
Thank you, Jessica. Has anyone else got any questions?
I'm just going to add
Yes.
from a kind of more employability point of view, is that one of the best places to go for the students is LinkedIn, and start thinking about building their professional network. Then you can start to follow the firms, the organisations, the sectors that you're interested in. You can start to connect with other finance professionals as well. And also many employers also post their graduate positions on there. And what's really useful is to look at the job description and look at what it involves and the types of tasks you're going to be getting involved in, because that will help you make more informed choices about, you know, your sector, your employer, the qualification you want to do, and also the type of work you're going to get involved in. So I can't really kind of promote LinkedIn high enough. It's been great throughout my career, and it's just really good for giving you a bit of business knowledge and commercial awareness at the same time.
That's very true. And I know now more and more, I'm in the marketing team here, so businesses are posting about what they stand for, what they care about, what their purpose is. So you get so much more insight now into what the culture's like at the different businesses. So you can really, yeah, not always focus on the area, but also the business that you want to be a part of. Has anyone else got anything to add? I've got no more questions coming through. So if there's any final thoughts anyone wants to make or knowledge to share, and then yeah, we'll see if there's any more questions.
I'm happy to quickly just add on from what Dan was saying about LinkedIn is how important commercial awareness is as well. You know, you can bring all these skills and your quality, what you brought from university. And I'm hoping Jess will agree with me from a recruitment perspective, but having that to stand out and to get your foot in the door and get that job, having that commercial awareness can be so crucial and help you along all aspects of not just getting the job, but once you've got the job, getting recognized within your teams, and then I guess Simon hopefully can agree as well, getting promoted and just reaching out to those connections. Having that commercial awareness is so important and something I preach to all the students I speak to. So get listening to the news, get on LinkedIn, follow as many businesses that are interested for you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Harvey.
So LinkedIn, from a recruitment perspective, is huge. So I spend a lot of my day on LinkedIn, connecting with people. We post videos of our current staff telling their story. I headhunt people. So for those who don't know I hunt people down. That sounds scary, but I message them on LinkedIn. I find their profiles. Sophie, who is on the call today, she connects with a lot of graduates, a lot of students to make ourselves aware. So my top tips for a shoot would be, if you've not got LinkedIn already, create one, make a list of firms that you want to follow. And then once you follow those firms, go on their list of employees and start connecting with people. You'll be able to connect with students from last year. You'll be able to connect with the partners. You'll be able to connect with the managers. And then if you are coming up to, so say you're coming to our assessment centres in December, start connecting with students that joined us last year. They did the assessment centres, so they could give you top tips, and no one ever begrudges a nice message off somebody saying, hi, like interested in working with you. Could you tell me a little bit more? At any level. Also, it does, granted, probably more experienced hires, but if I've got an interview booked in with somebody and they message one of our directors or connect with them on LinkedIn, it's the first thing they say because they can see the profile, they've already got that connection, so it helps you stand out. So get following companies, get connecting with people in the in industry and practice in the companies, and also think about things that you could post. So your page is an online CV, but you can also post updates. So if I were you, I'd be posting, if you do a group project and you get a really good score, take a group picture, put it on, let us know what you're doing. It will get noticed. If you do it, if you've just done a fantastic presentation or a pitch, it's been a while since I went to uni, but we used to do presentations in our lectures, take a picture, get it uploaded, we'll be able to see it. If you're connected with us, we can see it and it helps you stand out, and it really promotes you, and use it to your advantage. So if I was preparing for an interview, I would go on a company's website, have a look at their values, and prepare some answers as how I might fit into those values. I'd go on the LinkedIn, I'd connect with as many people as possible. Sometimes the most daunting thing about going into an interview is you're meeting a stranger in a strange office. So straight away, connect with the person you're interviewing with. You might find some common ground. Have a look on Glassdoor. So Glassdoor is where employees anonymously rate companies, so you can get a genuine feel for what it's like to work there. But also there's a section on there on what were you asked in your interview, so you can already pre-prepare. So yeah, I couldn't stress LinkedIn enough.
Thank you. That's really interesting. Another question. So for the those joining us from accounting bodies, are there opportunities that students can get involved with before they become working professionals?
I think I would say on that is any experience is good experience. You know, hopefully hopefully I'm right in saying that the employers are not looking for ready-made accountants. We know that that's not going to be the case when you're coming out of university. You may have some knowledge, but you may not have been able to apply that knowledge, you know, in the workplace. And so, you know, I mean, and Jessica's mentioned this, you know, it's about standing out. So what have you been involved in, whether it be at university or outside of university, or a part-time job, or a society, voluntary, charity work, anything else that you're involved in out with your degree studies, that's what the employers will want to hear about, you know, and they want to know, you know, how you can add value to their business. And so, you know, Jessica's right, if you're involved in something, post about it on LinkedIn, but that creates a story for you to tell when you get to like assessment centres and interviews. So I would just always kind of think about the transferable skills, and I know you'll hear that term a lot, but you know, things like customer service, problem solving, analytical skills, teamwork, communication. So, you know, forget about the world of accounting. Whatever job you go into, you need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to ask the right questions. Sometimes you don't ask the right questions, and there's nothing wrong with that, but be inquisitive, get to know people, network as much as you can, and because that will help build up your confidence. It will create opportunities for you, and you know, it just helps you when you're applying for jobs with employers too.
And do students have to, can they engage with you before going into employment? Can they do your qualification without being in employment, or do they, how does that work?
Well, my advice would be that you really need to be able to apply your knowledge. So if anyone is currently studying, you know, at university, I would say focus on that at the moment. You possibly are going to get exemptions. So there's no point in you doing exams if you're already going to get the exemptions. And I think the most important thing is just coming back to something Simon said, and get your foot in the door. And then, you know, it may be that you've you know, had the opportunity to then choose which qualification, but also internships and placements are a huge thing. So if you're at that stage of your, you know, penultimate year, then do think about trying to get some relevant work experience if you can. And also because a lot of employers now, and again, I hope I'm right in saying this, build their pipeline from their internships and their placements, and will often invite those students back in their, you know, after their final year, you know, and so the pot of actual jobs becomes smaller in your final year because the employers have already recruited from the internships and placements. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. There's no harm in people going off to join the professional bodies. I think we all have websites you can go and sign up for, you know, opportunities, or read the research and connect with people. But you may not want to start actually doing your exams until you're working, and you can put it into practice. It makes a bit more sense when you're doing it all at the same time, although it's hard work.
Thank you.
Sorry, Laura, one thing I wanted to add.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about, obviously, what else can people do and so on. And something that I've just forced down, if you like, and eventually I bought into it, and actually I'm so glad I did, was just reading books. There are so many business books out there that are not just related to accountancy. There are so many fascinating people out there. A book I read was about how Nike was founded. That's not boring business, but that's Nike, that everyone wears Nike shoes, etc., etc., etc. But how that came about, how the business model came about, you get so much knowledge from that kind of read. I read a book about how to wreck your business. I remember it was a guy in Scotland. He had a business up there, and he basically ruined his business. But he tells you how not to, or how to wreck it. As in not to do the right things. But the amount of information that I've gathered from just reading books that I've then used in client meetings or whatever else has been, so much. From real life stories to more like theory about mindset and so on, about how teams work. There's another one from The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by a guy called Patrick Lencioni. Fascinating kind of stuff, how a team and how an organization works. So if you start Googling top business books or whatever, there'll be certain ones on there. There's like guy called Stephen Covey as well. He has loads of different books as well about highly effective people and how you do certain things and so on and so forth. And these kind of soft skills will stand you above, just, oh, here's my grades, so it's that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, think about your accountancy stuff. And I get, sitting down and reading and so on may not be the most, brilliant thing in the world to do, but you can listen to on a podcast, you can get Audible, and you can listen to while you're running, whatever it might be. But that's certainly something I enjoy, but that's something I just wanted to add.
Thank you. That's really useful. India and Judith, did you want to add anything on to the point about experience with accounting bodies?
Yeah, I think as Simon said about reading, but obviously continuous upskilling is so important. So any online courses, I know probably all the accounting bodies here have online courses, not only for their members, but for non-members, about a wide range of things, not even just about accounting. So webinars, online courses you can do, the reading, so any professional development that you can take part in, anything at uni like extracurricular, like societies that you might be part of. I know there's accounting societies at university, so anything that you can add on to your resume that way. Any sort of workshops, CV workshops, and interview workshops as well. I know that there's lots of those held by accounting bodies at universities and careers fairs, just going around, building your network, talking to people, finding out more information, adding them on LinkedIn. So all of those things definitely help.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I would echo what everybody else has said. So the internships are great, and you can do those if you have the opportunity, but I wouldn't get too hung up about it. I wouldn't get too hung up about joining a society or professional body while you're still at university. I think Simon said something really nice about not rushing your development. And I think making the most of while you're at university and thinking about what you are doing. So, you will be getting, if you've got a part-time job, working in a pub on a Friday night, you will be actually having to think about managing resources in that, in that environment. And I think maybe thinking, about your sports teams, managing the washing for the hockey team, I don't know, this sort of thing, but maybe reflecting on the sort of skills, on a regular basis, maybe every 6 months, rather than coming to the end of your degree and trying to think about all these sort of competencies things right at the end. When you're doing the CA qualification, you have to do a logbook to demonstrate how you've done your work experience, your practical experience. And we find that if students do this, chunk it off on a regular basis, it's much easier for them at the end. And the same goes for preparing for jobs. If you think, every 6 months you take time to think about that group project that worked well, that one that didn't work well, often you learn more from them, what you did at the weekend, what you the group that you organized in that way, and you jot these things down. And if you're jotting them down as you go through your degree, then when you come to an interview with Jessica, and she's asking you, I don't know, competency-based questions or something, then you're going to have a whole portfolio of things to choose from. And really reflecting on the other stuff that you do. And if you're doing things that you enjoy, you play cricket, you enjoy it, you go to different leagues, etc., then you're going to get more out of it rather than feeling, oh, I must join the accounting society. If you don't want to join the accounting society, don't, join what makes you tick, and maybe take a finance role in that, or an organization thing. So try and not get too hung up on ticking the right boxes, but reflecting on what you do and getting the most out of it, I think would be my advice.
Thank you, Judith. I really like that. And it's so true to just really think about what your strengths are and who you are as a person and what your values are. Because even for us, well, since I've been here as well, the roles change so much and there's so many different areas that require different skills. So some are more compliance, that you will be sat behind your desk doing data, whereas others are going out and meeting clients and going to networking events. And there's so many different areas in between as well, that we're always looking for different varieties of people. So it's important to not try and, there is no mold, not try and be one particular person, just to be your authentic self, really. Does anyone have any other final thoughts, anything else they'd like to add before we close today? No? Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you to all of our panelists for joining us. Thank you so much. And we hope it's given everyone some insight into the world of accountancy and the qualifications and organisations out there. Yeah, thank you for joining us, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.